All right, welcome back to Field Pass Podcast. This is Zach Forsyth here, and my fellow co-host Braden McConnell. We're here to help you dissect this most recent week in NFL football. Go over the ups, downs, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Braden, how was your non-football week?
Not for yeah. I mean, it's all right. Yeah, football saves my week, so
Football saved his week.
it makes it more exciting.
Fun. Well, I recently moved into an apartment, and I'm currently trying to go through the diplomacy of introducing a cat and a dog to each other, so they don't both kill each other in their sleep. So that's been a process. But let's talk about football. It's a lot more interesting than this current situation. For our top 5 moments or taglines of the week, let's start off with one of the most surprising, one of the most surprising taglines this week, or I guess one of the results. To recap, we were talking about Bears Commanders. Uh, Braden, for example, noted that he believed that the Commanders and the Bears would be won by would be won by the Commanders, and that they would trounce the Bears. I, for one, said that the Bears would find a way to keep it close. However, both of us found a way to be wrong. The Bears thoroughly did in the Commanders, ending, what was it, a 14-game losing streak?
I
Something like that.
believe, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. 14
it'd been a
games of
minute.
losing was ended that night on Commanders' home turf. So let's talk about it. Let's answer the question of the day. Is the Bears' offense really that good? Are they really those guys? Or is the Commanders' defense really that smelly and bad? Brandon, I'm gonna give you the first word on that.
I think the Commanders DBs just suck. That's my. I'm not saying the Bears don't have a good offense. I just think the Commanders secondary needs some work. I mean, I'm gonna take this back to the Sunday before against the Eagles. Jalen Hurts threw for 25 37, 319, 2 touchdowns. AJ Brown caught 9 passes, 175 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Devontae Smith had 7 for 78. Now, if we go to the Bears game, obviously Justin Fields 15, 29, 282, 4 touchdowns, and then DJ Moore with 8 catches for 230 and 3 touchdowns. And then Komet had a good day as well. I mean, it looks like there were some plays where DJ Moore felt like he had like 20 yards of separation. Like it
Hmm.
wasn't even close. I don't even know if they were playing defense. I don't know what they were doing out there. And it was like, it wasn't just like a one-time thing or one game thing. It's happened the last 2 games they've played where they've just been getting cooked in the passing game. I mean, you could really go back to the Bills game too, if you really wanted to
Yeah,
go back that far.
I mean, you could go about as far back as the draft day for the Commanders with the pick for Emmanuel Forbes. I mean, there were concerns about his size, concerns about his ability to stay with a lot of the more physical receivers. And when you have vetted wide receivers and really people the size of AJ Brown, we kind of expected Emmanuel Forbes in particular to struggle with that weight of person, but also just the moment having to go against one of those uh like those dogs and that of AJ Brown. His struggles did not end this week though. PFF gave Forbes a 33.6 grade um, in over the course of the night, and just really you can't really say much about his performance other than it was really really bad. Um, I believe he got benched in the game prior against the Eagles just for giving up that many yards against Brown. You could see that he was visibly upset on the sidelines, and it's kind of interesting because this was supposedly one of, or at least what you would expect to be, DC's biggest strength is their corner room. Um, but essentially everyone other than the line has been struggling, especially in the secondary. Chase Young has continued to be decent. The DTs are showing up. Decent is underselling him. He's been good. He's been good. He was good in that game. Um, but yeah, as soon as you get past that, you're in a world of hurt for Washington. And I think that definitely showed against DJ Moore, um, who to outline how crazy his game was for the for the Bears. He ran 32 routes. That's 97% of the passing plays. So he was basically on the field every single time that the ball was coming out of Justin Fields' hands forward. Um, he was targeted 10 times, which is around 31% of each of those throws. And over the course of the entire team receiving yards, which was 282 passing yards total, DJ Moore accounted for 230 of those yards. So when you have one player stunning on you like that, it's hard to depict anything more. It's hard to say that it's hard to point to one example and say that that's more of a one-man show. That was a one-man show night, and the Commanders DBs can do anything to stop it.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of another question. Do you think the Bears do you think the Commanders improve at all? Or do you think they kind of just like do you think receivers will just keep having these type of days against them or
I think so. I mean, it's kind of hard to put this expectation on these rookie DBs just because it kind of is a position where recently we've seen really prominent studs in that of Gonzalez, who unfortunately was injured, and also in that of Sauce. We've seen more of these guys kind of struggle recently, in that of like Derek Stingley on the Texans, and Emmanuel Forbes, who, like I said, did have concerns about size, so that's kind of hard to fix. But maybe he'll find a way. Like, it's possible that he can find a way to sort of get involved, because he's getting pushed around. Like these receivers are going to push you. Like there's going, and offensive pass interference probably is not going to getting called as much as defensive. So you kind of have to he's going to have to find a way to probably build strength around expecting that they're going to try and throw him around. Um, but I mean, I don't think that this is going to be a situation where he's going to be this mediocre for the rest of his days. I think he will eventually figure it out. I don't think he'll ever be close to anything like a Sauce or anything like that, judging from what we've seen already. But I don't think that this is like a death knell for him or his career.
yeah, not I mean he is a rookie. We got to give him that. So
Yeah.
he needs time to develop obviously. And then moving on to our next topic. Out of the two 5-0 teams, Eagles and 49ers, who do you think's looked more impressive and who would you if they played right now, who would you think would win?
Personally, I would put my money on the Niners. By every stretch of the imagination, in my opinion, I think that they appear to be dominant, other than that of the quarterback room. Um, you have arguably the best running back in the NFL right now, now that Chubb is out. In that of Christian McCaffrey, you have a stellar defense who shut the Cowboys down, and then an offense that was able to put up 40 plus points on them uh, recently on this Sunday night. And we talk about the Cowboys like they're a top three defense, and I think that even with that showing, they still should be considered to be within that caliber. But I think I would take the 49ers all day. Um, one strange thing I really have seen recently is like this belief that Brock Purdy is somehow like he's like a fraud or anything, or that he gets too much praise. I don't think that that's the case at all. I don't think, obviously, I wouldn't expect him to be put in like the 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 Panthers or anything like that and put at the same points. Like no one is putting that point forward. But to have Mr. Irrelevant be put on arguably the best offense in the NFL currently, or like the most complete team, and find a way to still keep it productive, and not only as productive as Jimmy Garoppolo, but potentially even like go further than that, like in what was stopped only by basically them expending every single quarterback they had effectively had on the roster in that playoff game last season. Like, he's deserving of respect, and I think that it's pretty ridiculous that people are kind of like insinuating that he was like that he's a fraud, or that the rest of the team is holding him up. Obviously, there are things that you can improve upon. He's a rookie. He's like this is this if since he's or last season he was a rookie. Like this is the season where you're supposed to start showing like improvements and gains. And if I my concern for him and my not that like his life is I have any like right to be concerned about it, but like it's gonna really be a shame if every improvement that he has is just written off because he's on like the best offense in the NFL. Like that would stink.
Yeah, I mean, he's in the best system in the NFL, and I don't think that's up for debate, really. I mean, we've seen in the last year, really, three. I mean, we got one starter on another team and Trey Lance. I mean, was a starter, and then Jimmy G, and then obviously Brock Purdy, and Purdy's looked the best out of the three. I mean,
Yeah,
just look
yeah,
at the
you're right.
record in between them. Like, they were like a 500, like, I don't know, it was like 4-4, 5-5 or something like that. Well, before Brock Purdy came in, and then boom, they were the what 2 seed in the NFC. Like they didn't lose, like they maybe lost one other game. So I mean, you can't say. And I agree. I think the 49ers have looked more dominant. I mean, what they've like they killed the Steelers 30-7, and the Steelers. I mean, they got a couple good wins. They beat Ravens, Raiders, and then I forget the other. Oh, Browns.
Hmm.
They do have a common opponent in the Rams, which Eagles won by 2 more points, but I mean that really doesn't matter to me. And then they killed the Giants 30-12, Cowboys 40-10, Cardinals 35-16. And Eagles have played some close games. Week 1 they could have very easily lost to the Patriots. They could have lost to the Commanders. Vikings just had it one possession hanging around. If you're looking at dominance between the two teams, I think it has to go to the 49ers because they've looked dominant every single game. Philadelphia has had games where they could have lost. You know what I'm saying? It felt like throughout this whole year, the 49ers haven't been in any danger of losing.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think that uh, if you're an Eagles fan, there were multiple occasions, most recently that of the Rams game in which you were like clenching the arms of your seat, like kind of trying to hold on to the right. And I expected that it would be a pretty rough game for the Eagles just because of the competencies that a lot of the rookie talent that the Rams do have. So I didn't I expected it to be pretty close, and I mean the Eagles do find a way to win in that in that moment. That's just who they are. But like the fact that it even got to that point, I would not say the same about the 49ers and the Rams. I think that they would handle them pretty quick, like pretty easily. And let's point this out too. Against like fairly competent defenses, keep in mind these are the 5 teams that the 49ers have played. Steelers, like top 5, top 6 defense. Rams, probably up there in your top 10, top 15 potentially with Aaron Donald just himself. And then Cowboys, who they put up 40 on. It's like, and with this in mind, Brock Purdy hasn't thrown anything less than 60, hasn't completed anything less than 65% of his passes, and he's thrown 0 interceptions. So it's like you are playing with amazing talent, but like the fact that he's not making these like crazy mistakes is good is good in and of itself.
And
So
he's this Brock Purdy hate is just, I mean, there's no reason for it. It's probably just people that hate the 49ers.
yeah, or they just they hate to see people win.
Yeah.
They hate to see Mr. Irrelevant winning, but who knows? I think that's enough said about him, though. I think we can head over to one of the more concerning teams in football, and that would be up in New England with the Patriots, who clearly have a lot to work on. Basically, within every facet of the word, Brain. You want to kick us off on a
I mean, let's just start
what are
off
the
with the
Patriots doing?
offense. I
Yep,
mean, they have not done anything right. I mean, Mac Jones threw 12 for 22, 110 yards, 2 interceptions. They had Ezekiel Elliott had the most catches on the team for 17 yards,
that's
and they
crazy.
had 45 rushing yards against a Saints team that hasn't they haven't looked bad, but they haven't looked good either. And it was 34-0. Like this offense, man, they're playing so inconsistent. They're only playing like 1 or 2 good quarters a game, but in this case, they didn't play one. Like the Eagles game, they had a decent second half. Same against the Dolphins game. and then they just have stunk the bed the past 2 weeks against Patriots and Cowboys. I think they're just, I mean, they're lacking weapons and their quarterback play hasn't been that great either. I mean, they have Ramondre Stevenson, but they can't get him to go, and he rushed 8 times for 24 yards, and Zeke was 8 for 21. So I think
Yeah, they're
that's
struggling for sure. I think that this is finally the time in which, I mean, if you're a Patriots fan with Zappy, like the whole Zappy like story of last season, you you are already not, you didn't have your full faith in Mac. Like that, no, if you're a Patriots fan, like it's very, we're not Patriots fans, so we're not in those circles, but it's very clear that there was already frustration with that. You're probably mad at Belichick for like employing family members. You're probably mad at him for just like kind of this feeling that you're coasting on the dynasty of the past. And really, after this loss against the Saints, who like really weren't projected to be, like when you take a look at this team, it kind of just like reeks of mediocrity. You had Alvin Kamara, who was out for, well, it was like 4 games this season. Those games should have been like, so you're out your star running back. Then you have Derek Carr, who recently has been traded over from the Saints, sorry, the Raiders. And that was not exactly the cleanest of an exit. I mean, like it wasn't anything crazy, like Antonio Brown taking his shirt off and running out of the stadium or anything like that. But it was just very clear that like, all right, we're done with Derek Carr. And like if you're a Saints fan, like you're not expecting this guy to like completely revitalize your team. And no one really knew what that division was going to look like, but it really didn't look like beating the Patriots by that many points, especially when they have a defense that's supposed to be like this consistent thread of greatness. So like to be humiliated like that, it I'm not saying that Belichick's job should be in question or anything like that. I think a lot of Patriots fans may be thinking that, but like I think it's time that we actually, as members of like the NFL conglomerate, start having questions about Mac Jones, and we potentially like could be entertaining like a Caleb Williams sweepstakes for the Patriots.
yeah. And do they have their first round pick? I don't think they've traded it.
I don't think so either. Um,
So I mean, if they they're 1 and 4, if they can get Caleb Williams, I don't he if he sees the Patriots and the number
yeah.
one pick, he may stay at USC, but
I mean, right now the the Patriots are sitting around 5, like the fifth pick. So they do still have their first round pick. Uh, now that I say, I don't know if they'll end up finding ways to the differential between them. I mean, and Carolina, Carolina has lost 5. I don't know if Carolina wins 3 more games that the Patriots lose. I don't know if they find a way to close that gap in Carolina, and I don't even know if you want to per se. Um, well, I mean, actually, with Carolina, you don't have your pick, so you do want to sort of piece something together now at the end because like this is kind of
there's
what you're
no
dealt
point
with.
in tanking.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know. Maybe they find a way. Maybe they find a way to piece it together. The Bears. I mean, they if they can keep playing like they played against the Commanders, like maybe they can close that gap. I think at this point we should maybe start looking to Denver, Minnesota, and New England as potential contenders.
Yeah. That moving us on, we got the Ravens wide receiver disaster class in Pittsburgh. I'm just gonna read I'm gonna read off the stats before I pass it off to you. Zay Flowers, 5 targets, 70 or 5 receptions, 11 targets, 73 yards. Mark Andrews, 665 and 10 targets. Those were the two big ones. In total, there
And
was eight.
Bateman.
Yeah, Bateman was he had he was 1 for 3 to catches and target ratio. In total, it was 8 missed catches that equaled 170 yards and 3 touchdowns. And they lost this game 10-17. So I'm passing the floor to you, hearing all those stats. What do you think of the disaster class Baltimore put on?
It just makes me sick to my stomach, man. Like I would, keep it candidly, as a Browns fan, like a rabid one too. I was not. particularly like rooting for the Ravens because I don't want them to already start running away because it looks like they're geared up enough for them to do so. But if their wide receivers keep playing like that, then maybe I should like exhale a little bit. That was awful. Like especially the times in times in which like Zay Flowers like has been excelling, especially on those like deep balls. Like he really struggled that day. Like, and it wasn't necessarily due to like the pressure by the cornerbacks. I mean, some of it did. I mean, Joey Porter Jr. was like the highest ranked. I think it was either rookie or player like over the course of this weekend. So I mean, it's not like he was playing like a slouch or anything. He did have that interception by Lamar, which I would say was Lamar's biggest mistake over the course of this game. But you can't put this on Lamar. There were a number of examples where Bateman dropped that touchdown pass, Andrews dropped that touchdown pass, and a couple other options where like they're just stupid mistakes that we're making. Now, of course, they're missing Odell, but like the we haven't seen Odell this season. So you should be just as productive. You should be just as dominant. And Lamar was playing better if like sorry, like as good or if not better than he has over the course of this past season. He's electric and you just can't stop Lamar Jackson when he's playing the way that he is at his height. And that's why when we lost to the Ravens, like I was already kind of emotionally detached because we were playing DTR. And I like didn't expect anything crazy. But like when I see Lamar Jackson doing like Mahomes throws, but he just won't get the publicity because he's not Patrick Mahomes, like to me that's ridiculous. Like to me, I just like there's nothing you can do to stop it, so I'm not even really gonna get that mad. So with that particular game, it was just that was like, and I'm just like a personal fan of Lamar. I like the way he plays. I like how he can turn something out of nothing. Like so it made me sick to the stomach just to see that like Lamar is going to get catch flack for this when that game was just like the definition of selling the bag on behalf of the wide receivers and the tight end.
Yeah, I mean, like Zay Flowers, we got targeted 11 times, giving him 5 catches. I mean, there was times where he fell on his ass, like literally
Mhm.
like just for no reason, running to the ball, and then I mean, was literally just going straight through his hands. I mean, the one clip of him dropping it and then TJ Watt punching him in the helmet was, I mean, that's pretty much like he was just. It was just a bad day for Zay Flowers. I think I don't think he'll have that bad of a game again because I do think you can't give a. I mean, it's one bad game. It was a really, really bad game, but I mean, you can't think that's gonna happen every week. If it does, they're in some deep trouble. Because I mean, Lamar was making some good throws and they just weren't being caught. And they really should have won that game pretty handily against the Steelers, which they just couldn't get it done when it mattered.
They should have, and that's here's the thing when you like you saw that last touchdown by Pickett to Pickens on that audible that Pickett called sorry Pickett yeah Kenny Pickett called um that Matt Canada was all pissed about. They're not doing that again. Like if you get those like if you get either really any one of those three touchdowns that you missed, like they're not going to be able to replicate that. With Matt Canada as the coordinator, they're not going to find a way to like get unless like unless Pickett just completely turns off the microphone or like the speaker in his ear and just goes full rogue. Like there's no way that that's happening. So like I can't it's hard to say that one group of people like completely sold the game, completely ruined it, but in this case I think it's appropriate. The wide receivers had the ability to end the game on multiple occasions and failed.
Yeah, I think
Like even a couple where that would have put them in like field goal range, like whatever.
I think the Steelers did not win that game. The Ravens lost it.
Yeah, but that's Tomlin magic. He finds a way to do
He
it.
finds a way to get to 500 every year, and I don't know
Yeah.
how he does it.
And if that happens again, then this will be one of those games where it's just like, there you go. It was willed. It was willed
Yeah,
into existence by Tomlin.
I think he's allergic to going under, so
Yeah. He's allergic to employing anyone who makes him look bad too. So, um, moving on, last thing, and I think this is probably one of the most important questions for the history of the NFL. Like current, well, not the history, but like the current state of the NFL. What should we do about the Vikings? Because you have Justin Jefferson, who was just put on IR. The team is currently at 1-4 against a number of teams that they really should have won against. And I've said it before, it just seems like last season where they had like a negative point differential. They should have lost a number of these games. Like they found a way to win against. It was against the what was it? The Colts or the Bills? It was.
Which when they
Why am I
the
forgetting
against the
this? The
Colts, they came back like
they're
down 25, and
yeah,
Bills
yeah, yeah.
was like the game of the year. Like everything that could happen in a football game happened.
And that was one that the largest comeback.
No, the Colts one was the largest comeback.
Okay, there's Colts one. Okay, I don't know why I'm affiliating the two. Maybe it's just the color palette. But yeah, it just seems like they're not capable of doing that, even with like the added talent in like Jordan Addison. Like what do you do here if you're the Vikings going into the future? Do you just stick it out?
I mean, I don't think. Well, I just want to point this to is that like look how much they lost in the offseason. They lost a Pro Bowl running back in Dalvin Cook. They lost a one bro to the Browns.
Mm-hmm.
They
Dalvin
lost,
Tomlinson.
yeah, and then they lost a couple other people, and like they expected like nothing to change. And
Yeah, yeah.
and they're here wasn't. I mean, they had a good record. They won the North, but like it was like they they were like what 13 and 4, something like that. They easily could have been like 5 and whatever, 5 and 12 last year. Now everyone's blaming Kirk. I mean, I'm just pulling up this Chiefs game. He didn't turn the ball over once unless it did he. Oh no, he did fumble. But one thing, this turnover problem is the main reason. You literally watch whoever was was it Romo and Nance calling the game, I think.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, the Vikings can't turn the play over. Kirk's like first or second pass, throws it to Josh Oliver, fumbles it on the ground. And it's just like that's just the story of the Vikings season over. They can't stop turning the ball over, and that's what's cost them. Because I mean, Kirk was 29 for 47, 284, and two touchdowns. That's I mean, with the QBR 61, that's decent enough. I mean, that's not like the greatest game, but it's obviously not that bad of a game. And I mean, they are getting Addison and Hawkinson involved, but I mean, I think just the offseason moves were terrible. They were expecting it just to be another repeat year, and last year was already shaky enough as it is. I they need there's a caution sign going up in Minnesota. I don't think you completely tear it down yet. See what you can do with these next couple games. See if you can get back to 500. I mean, but once you start if you start like if you're like looking in 3 weeks and you're like 2 and 6, that's when you maybe need to start tearing it down. So we're only
That's
5 weeks
the thing.
into the season. We have 13 left.
That's the right. I mean, you're completely right. Here's the thing: you lost to Za'Darius Smith and Dalvin Tomlinson to one team, and you're expecting that the defense is still going to find a way to produce, and it's a team that's worthy of keeping star talent like Justin Jefferson. Here's the thing: I think we should talk about Justin Jefferson more as well. I think he's irritated, and I don't think he likes his situation. I think of course that he likes like his teammates and everything. Like he likes Kirk, but it's like as a person. But I think that he understands, and he's kind of in the same boat as Devontae, like that he is like top caliber talent, and he needs a top caliber quarterback to complement him. And it's not that Kirk Cousins is a bad quarterback by any stretch of the imagination. He's certainly serviceable, but he needs someone who's going to be able to have like a Diggs Allen um
Our Burrow
connection
Chase,
or
our
Burrow Chase.
Mahomes, Kelsey, something like. Yeah, I would even say Tua Hill. I mean,
Yeah. And here's the thing, like do you come back if you're Justin Jefferson? He's on IR, so he's going to be out for at least 4 games. It's like, and I don't really see that. Like let's take a look. Let's take a look at their schedule. I
they
don't really see.
play Bears. They're at Chicago next week.
Yeah,
They play 49ers, and they're at Packers, at Falcons, Saints, Broncos, Bears, Raiders, Bengals. and then Lions, Packers, Lions. So they play the Bears twice, two winnable games. Broncos once, that's a winnable game. They play the Packers twice and the Lions twice still. They play Falcons, Saints, Raiders. So they got very winnable game. The only game I would say is a definite L is the 49ers. And that's
I don't
five
know.
losses.
I think that you lose the. I really do think they'll lose against the Falcons and the Saints.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm not saying they won't. I'm saying the
yeah,
one for looking at the schedule, the one for sure L that's going to be there is the 49ers.
yeah. There's no
Especially
stretch of the
that's in 2
imagination where they're
weeks
trying to run
without
away with
Jay
that.
Jettis.
Yeah,
And I'm going to
and
kind of bounce off your Jay Jettis thing real quick. I think one thing that is hurting, like the way he's thinking about Minnesota, is he's seeing his two LSU buddies in Cincinnati going off. I don't think he wants to go to Cincinnati or anything. I'm not implying that. I'm just saying he's seeing two people who he's had success with do it without him, and he's kind of getting frustrated while he's down in the current situation he is.
yeah. You guys are having trouble going to keep T. There's no way you're getting Justin Jefferson,
Oh
but
yeah, I know. I don't think
yeah,
we are. I'm just
yeah.
saying he's seeing his
Right, but
college
you see
teammates.
the standard of how you should be discussed, like, and I think he knows he's better than T Higgins, but he's just like the production is not the production. I mean, it's not, and it's not like a situation like Devontae where you're getting 4 targets like that. That was how many targets he got in the game against the Packers in this most recent NFL game. But it's a thing where he knows his ceiling, and I think he's irritated with not being on a team that produces like the Vikings are right now. And I agree, like there are some winnable games in there, but like there are also stretches of the imagination where you could wonder like they could lose all of these games. Like
Yeah.
with the Bears, if the Bears somehow find a way to keep going, like they could find a like if Justin Jefferson, if that Moore connection is still solid, like they could find a way to win that. With the Packers, you're at the Packers. It's a tough divisional matchup. You could find a way to lose. Falcons, I mean, Ritter has even been, it's at the Falcons, so you're away again. And Ritter actually has maybe started showing some improvement. You do kind of get a breath of fresh air because you're home with the Saints, and like you don't really know where they'll be at that time either. But then you're back at the Broncos again. So it's like there are a couple like I'm if I'm the Vikings GM, I'm looking at this. I'm looking at these games in front of me, and I'm saying we lost our start, like really our sole star talent, and we are now faced with like 5 or 6 completely like not awful games or anything like that. The only game that's going to be completely awful is that Niners game, but like games where we could very reasonably lose with one mistake, and it's like I don't like that prospect of that. So I'm not saying you blow it up right now, but it's like if you like that big red button is starting to beep, and like you should slam it pretty soon if things don't start looking up pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's a ongoing story. I don't think they should move on for Kirk. There's just unless if they get this outstanding offer, they should just let him play it out and see how it goes. All right, moving on to our slate of games this week. Starting off with a real banger, Broncos Chiefs Thursday night. Kelsey is questionable as of right now, about 24 hours out. Well, I don't really know if he was going to play. He was a limited participant in practice from what I've heard, but I mean, Chiefs, they got Mahomes. I mean, we saw them struggle get against the Lions without him. And I mean, the Broncos have two things that the Chiefs don't, and that's Russell Wilson and Sean Payton. I mean, they're some dogs. So in that case, I'm going Chiefs.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that the Broncos do have that the Chiefs don't have is wide receivers. At least they have Jerry Jeudy and some of the other guys on there like
Sutton.
Yeah, like Sutton. I don't know why his name was his name was. I say they have wide receivers and then I forget the name of of Cortland Sutton. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you. I think that the Chiefs do find a way to win this. The concern with the lack of wide receivers on the Chiefs is valid, I think, especially, but it is nice that they are being able to get some of the young talent involved in that of Rashee Rice. I think people uh we're kind of underrating him coming out of college, and I'm glad that the Chiefs, or he's been able to land in a spot where he can produce. He already has a couple. I think he has either 1 or 2 touchdowns already. So I think it's 2 touchdowns. So it's good to see him getting involved. Uh, but yeah, I just think that this is another doom spiral for the Broncos, and there's really not much of a better way that you can spin it. I don't even know if you could really watch this game. That is unless, of course, that I mean that you're putting the best quarterback up against the worst defense in the league. So if you have if somehow they find a way to right the course of the ship on this particular game, this is the game to do it, I guess. Prove to the world that you're not as bad as you say you are, but I don't think that that would happen. I think that Patrick Mahomes is going to pretty easily dismantle this team.
And the Chiefs have won like 20 straight against Denver, so
Yeah, they have a history of having them beat. Not much more to say on that matter. Let's move over to Ravens Titans. Um, I think this will actually be a kind of an interesting game. I don't think that the Titans will keep it close by any stretch of the imagination. I think it'll be kind of like closer than we think, at least in the first quarter, and then the Ravens will kind of like bust a hole in it and then just find a way to keep it going. Uh, with that being said, if you haven't picked it up already, I think that the Ravens will win. I think that this is just a get back week for the wide receivers and Mark Andrews, who, I mean, he really didn't really have that bad of a game. He just had one pass that he didn't catch. It was pretty high, but I mean, he probably could have caught it. I also think the Ravens defense will be hard for Derrick Henry to just kind of like assert his dominance over Cincinnati. He was able to actually get some moves out. But this isn't Cincinnati. This is the Ravens defense, who's arguably top 4, top 5 in defense. Pretty decent against the Browns in the run. And then also, I mean, like TJ Warren and Najee Harris weren't really able to get that much going as well. So I just think that the Ravens do find a way to win this, and I think that once they get going, they won't stop.
yeah, I mean Ravens we've talked about their disaster class last week, and I don't think it'll happen again. I mean it could, you never know. And the Titans they lost to the Colts who I mean Anthony Richardson got hurt like midway through the second quarter, so Gardner Minshew played most of that game. And I mean the Colts did beat the Ravens too. So I mean, I guess they do have a common opponent that they both lost to, but I haven't really seen consistency from Titans. They go like from week one, they lost to the Saints, and they come back and beat the Chargers, and then lose, and then they play the Bengals and look like they're back again, and then they do this against the Colts. So we haven't really seen consistency, and I mean, the Ravens got Lamar Jackson, who's pretty good. I mean, he's a QB that can win you some games, so I think that's the difference in this Ravens. I got
Yeah.
the Ravens as well winning this one. Moving
Tell
on
us about
to
Panthers Dolphins.
yeah, Panthers Dolphins. It's gonna be a similar. Now last week I said the Dolphins would be the Giants by 50. It didn't happen, but I mean it was pretty dominant. Jalen Waddle's back. I mean he caught a couple touchdown, a couple passes. A-Chain was really looking to like separate himself as running back one, and then he hurt his knee and he's out a couple weeks. But I don't think that's really gonna hurt the Dolphins much, especially against the Panthers who have struggled this year. They come off another like bad kind of you say bad performance against the Lions. So I think Dolphins win this one pretty handily.
Yep, I agree. Not much more that you can say. I think Bryce Young will continue to struggle. His stats may be kind of inflated just because, like, for this particular game, just because the Panthers are going to find, sorry, the Dolphins are going to find such an easy way to score. I don't think that anyone will really be able to slow the Panthers down. Sorry, Dolphins down. Um, the Panthers have had some like pretty notable injuries, especially in the corner room. So I mean, that's not good to see on their end, and that's kind of one of the main reasons why I think that they've had the the winless season that they've had. Um, Defense hasn't been able to keep them in games, and I think that the Dolphins are just going to be able to completely exploit that. They're high flying, and maybe they can try and get something going on the round. Maybe things start working out with Bryce, but I just have no reason to believe that that will be the case. So Dolphins all the way for this one. Moving on to the next one. I think this is actually be a really entertaining game. Um, with Saints Texans, I think that this is again a test of Stroud, a test of the cast that they've accrued over there in Houston. This kind of like Moneyball approach uh to winning, I guess. Like, I mean, this is just kind of like the closest you would find. You get like these really cheap prospects, and somehow it ends up working out with Robert Woods, um, Tank Dell, and Nico Collins. Like, I think that you have some really great talent for not a particularly star-studded offense. Um, I think that with this in mind, going up against a Texans defense which actually has been producing, um, and a Saints offense who have also been producing, but I don't know how much like I, bel I believe in the Saints in the sense that like I think Derek Carr is serviceable, but I think that it's kind of hard to draw a conclusion from this game because they're both kind of in the same like level of skill caliber. But I think that with the momentum that the Texans have, I think that they find a way to win it. Um, Especially since it's at home, I think that they're going to have a crowd that's just really bought into this. I think that the city of Houston has been waiting for success for so long, and like this is a glimpse of it. So I think going on the road for the Saints will be difficult, especially with the way that the Houston Texans have looked recently, and I think that the Texans find a way to win it out. But I mean, I just may be preferential because I love CJ.
Yeah, I actually have the Texans too. I mean, they kind of took a step back last week, especially offensively against the Falcons. They only put up like 18, 19 points or something like that.
Hmm.
And I don't know if they'll bounce back. I think they will. Just, I mean, they do have a good offense. They're down in Houston and Saints. They're coming off a like whatever murders over in New England,
Yeah.
and they haven't really been that consistent either. And I mean, I Texans, they're both kind of like they've both kind of been inconsistent. And it just feels like this game where the Saints are going to kind of tank and the Texans are going to kind of like step up and win this game. I think the Texans will just stay around this 500 hump all year. So I think I got them winning.
Which isn't bad for your rookie quarterback's year.
No, not really. I mean, CJ Stroud's looking like offensive rookie of the year so far. So, and that's a lot for me to say.
You could have even said Puka Nacua, and I wouldn't have really been that mad. You could have reached for anyone else and have been like, okay.
Uh, then moving kind of Falcons Commanders. I mean, Desmond Ritter, I've been a Desmond Ritter hater all year. I'll go and say it, but he's starting to look like he can string a couple wins together for Atlanta. And especially with this Commanders defense falling apart these last couple weeks, I'm taking the Falcons in this one.
Yeah,
It's just
I'm gonna
hard
do
to
that too.
see the Commanders winning this game.
Yeah, it was super weird. Like Desmond Ritter kind of had a masterclass last game, and no one really talked about it. Like it, it,
That game just
it,
went under the radar.
it did go really under the radar, but it was really good. I mean, it's important to note that they also got Van Jefferson from the Rams, who I don't think is a slouch by any means. Like he's a decent player, and it's just another target um for Ritter. Do I think we do they use him? I have zero idea. And Arthur Smith is a mad scientist of the NFL, and he could, for all we know, he could be the quarterback next week. Obviously not anything that serious, but like eh, we have zero idea as to how they'll use Van Jefferson per se, or at least I have zero idea. They could find a way to get him involved. But I mean, if they believe in Ritter enough that they're bringing weapons, I guess that's a good sign. So good to see that they're making some movement, and I do think that the Commanders will find a way to lose this game, especially with the way that their defense is still kind of reeling from that pretty awful loss against the Bears. Colts Jags. This is coming off the news of Anthony Richardson being placed on IR, which is really depressing. One of the most dynamic and electric players in the NFL is hurt. Um, And now we are now looking to one of the, I guess, one of the players that we've hyped up the most as a collective NFL unit, and that of Trevor Lawrence, and we're going to see if he can compete. I think that Trevor Lawrence does find a way to do pretty well during this game. It was good to see ETN getting involved again because I really love him as a player and I love seeing him getting involved. I just think this is a game that Ridley and Kirk that connection will really just begin to develop. It's notable to just kind of take into consideration that Jonathan Taylor is back. But Zach Moss, even with Jonathan Taylor coming back, it looked like they were easing him into the game, so we don't really know what to expect from him. And it's safe to assume that he's not going to be fully dominant or fully within shape. So I think I'll take the Jags on this one.
Yeah, and the Jags had a great bounce back game against the Bills. They really
Hmm.
found it felt like they found themselves offensively and they were able to trade blows. I mean, the game was off to kind of a slow start, but in the later end, they were starting to trade blows offensively, and the Jaguars were able to hold their own. And with Anthony Richardson out, I know Minshew won against the Ravens. I mean, you could say he won against the Titans. I think the Jaguars they won the first matchup, and I think they won this one as well. I mean, yeah, like I said, I think the Jaguars are starting to find themselves offensively with this one. So moving on to Bengals Seahawks. Bengals feel like they played their first complete game in Arizona. I get that it was against Arizona and everything, but it looks like they took one step in the right direction. And the Seahawks, who they were off last week, weren't they? Yeah,
Yeah.
they were off. They were off, and they had the Giants game where I mean, their defense dominated, but it's the Giants, so we don't really know how well that's going. I think the Bengals will actually win this game. I don't. I think it'll be a close game. I think it will be more of an offensive game, actually, more than a defensive game. I think this would be kind of be like the Lions Seahawks games where it's been like 30, like 35-31 or like 42-38 or something like that. Because I think the Bengals, they, I mean, Jamar Chase 7-Eleven is always open, so yeah, I think they'll find a way to get him involved. I'm not sure if T will play, but I hope he does.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that the Bengals are going to struggle, I think, to deal with like Devon Witherspoon, some of like the other members of the Seattle defense, but I don't think that it will be enough to like work back the progress that they made against the Cardinals last week. I think I agree with you. Like this is one of the more complete games the Bengals did play. Um, he had some plays made against Josh Dobbs, took him back for a pick six. So I think that this is just another game where it's gonna be tough. Like it's like this isn't an easy opponent or anything of that sort, but it's not going to be a situation in which you it's an unwinnable game by any means. I think that the Bengals do find a way. This is like a good schedule for them to like rebuild the team back to what we expected them to be.
Yeah, they can definitely in these next couple ones, they can definitely string some together.
Hmm. All right, let's move on to the next one then.
Bears
That can be
Vikings.
found in the Bears Vikings. Um, almost like a trap game for the Vikings, I think, with Justin Jefferson being out. I think that the Bears do like have the momentum. I wouldn't guess that they have the odds in terms of like Vegas's standards. But the money line is currently Vikings under 145, Bears plus 120. So Vegas is expecting the Vikings to kind of have a bounce back week. Um, bounce back in the face of injury. But I think actually the Bears will win this. Um, I think the defense is legit. I think like I mean as legit as 1-5 can be. Sorry, 1-4 can be. Um, and I think that like this connection between DJ Moore and Justin Fields like actually is something to consider. Like it could be pretty high level, and I think that they are starting to actually use Justin Fields correctly. It was good to see him feel as if he could run like with the designed play around him. Um, but then also to have more of like just more of someone who can actually help him out. Obviously, if you're a quarterback, like you just want to be able to find a way to win, um, regardless of the strength of your team. Like the best quarterbacks are just able to do it. But it felt good to finally have someone to back him up, and I think that the Bears will continue to rely on that. They'll continue to seek it out. One thing that is worth noting is that uh, Justin Fields does throw it away a lot. Um, but I don't think the Vikings will be able to get that pressure on him and will be able to force him to make those throws. So let me take the Bears for this one.
I have the opposite. I think the Bears did get the win in DC, but I just think that that was part of the Commanders sucking on the defensive end. I think I think the Vikings won this because I mean they didn't play. They played the Chiefs last week. Everyone's forget. I feel like no one's really pointing that out, and they only really lost by 7. And if they can fix these turnover issues, I think they'll be completely fine. This is a variable winnable game for the Falcons, even without Jay Jettis. I mean, they still got some decent weapons. They got Addison, Osborne, and Madison. So I think the Vikings end up winning this one. I think it'll be close though. I don't think like the Vikings will blow them out or anything. This will be like the Vikings will get hit on the chin again, and let's see if they can get back up to start throwing some punches back. And moving on to a very interesting matchup. 49ers Browns. The main point here is Deshaun Watson playing? I mean, there was a tweet that came out yesterday that he's been cleared for a week and still not practicing fully. Like I don't know what's going on with Deshaun right now, but it's even if he is playing, it's not looking like he's going to be 100% healthy. And you need to be 100% healthy against the 49ers right now. They're just a freight train running through everyone. I think the system's too good, and I got the 49ers in this one.
Yeah, I also have the Niners. Let me just start on this clown show of Cleveland media. We have no way of addressing this situation with like just give us the facts. Give like if Deshaun is hurt, tell us Deshaun is hurt. And if we're gonna start PJ Walker, tell us we're gonna start PJ Walker. And the irritating thing about all of this is that I mean, of course, Deshaun's not gonna speak to the media today because he's hurt and he doesn't want to talk about it. But they're already talking. They were already talking about floating PJ Walker and instead of DTR. Given like if Deshaun couldn't play, and this was prior to the week even starting. So it's like, come on, guys, are we being are like what are you keeping from us? Um, Additionally, I think the Browns defense are going to be great. Like I think Schwartz is going to find a way to contain the receivers. I think he's going to find a way to punish Purdy, especially since he's more of a pocket guy. Like I think Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith, not that they're going to have a show or anything, but they're still going to be able to produce. Um, but that offensive side of the ball, there's no way that you win against the 49ers with Deshaun Watson at less than 95, less than 100%. Or with PJ Walker. So I think that those are just the two realities. There's no way that he didn't even practice today, guys. Like Stefanski and Barry need to get their act together. They need to communicate better. Like, and I think the 49ers are just going to win this one, and the Browns fans are going to continue to panic.
Yeah, this will put them at 2-3, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever. It's like we do have some games coming up that will be able to bounce back from, I think. Like, I mean, after the Browns, you have the Colts, Seahawks, Cardinals. We're back to the Ravens and Steelers, Broncos, and then Rams. Like, I feel like literally all of those games are winnable if we have a healthy Deshaun and like we figure out the run game at that point. Like even like even the Ravens, like we can run that back. But and even the Steelers too, like their defense has kind of looked worse as the weeks have gone on. Other than that Ravens game, but that was more like as we said before, that was more of a failure on the Ravens offensive end. Um, like I think that if we lose against the Niners, it's not the end, but I think people are going to be freaking out, and it's just the culture is going to take a hit. So Patriots Raiders, I think, is going to be a pretty nasty game, kind of similar to Bears Broncos, which didn't even end up being really that bad. Actually ended up being pretty entertaining. But I think just the Patriot. I don't think the Patriots are going to be able to get anything moving on the ground, everything moving through air, just anything moving offensively for that regard. Like against the Raiders, who should be who really. I mean, you have Max Crosby, but that's really it. So, but even then, I think with the way that Mac is playing, I think they're really going to be able to punish him. And like, this is just going to be really depressing. Like, if you're a Patriots fan, you just want to kind of close your eyes and watch the whenever the offense is playing, and then whenever the defense is playing, hope that they find a way to score points. So, give me the Raiders on that one. I think that, I mean, Garoppolo's playing serviceable, sort of, but they do have to start getting Devontae involved if they want to go against any like a really solid defense, and I think that will be coming up shortly. But that won't be as important against the Patriots.
Yeah, I think I mean, Raiders are very similar to the Saints, where they've kind of they've just been kind of like inconsistent all year. They've strung a couple wins and they've strung a couple losses. And you saw what the Saints did to them last week. The Saints definitely have a better defense, but I think the Raiders will win this game. I don't know if it'll be as big as a blowout. It could be closer than we all think, but the way the Patriots are playing right now is not it, and I don't really see how it can get better with this current situation. And Bill Belichick is not an offensive mastermind, you, to say. So, yeah, I think the Raiders just win this one. Then we go Lions traveling down to Tampa Bay, take on the Bucks and Baker. And the Lions, I mean, dude, they've looked really good this year. They're on a rampage right now. I think they beat the Bucks. I mean, even with all their injuries on defense, they had the one corner that just came back got hurt. CJ Gardner Johnson's still out. So yeah, I think the Lions won this one in their offense. Sam Laporta's looking he's putting up Travis Kelce numbers right now, so I'm interesting to see how that continues to develop. But Lions win big in Tampa.
Yeah, it's kind of sad that the Buccaneers are gonna have to go against the Lions because they've kind of been in a bit of a hot run. Like it's good to see Baker succeeding. Lions just have their number though, and I think the Lions are gonna find a way to win. I mean, Jared Goff is just in a better spot in terms of the quarterback play, even with Baker playing the way that he's playing. Interested to see if he'll start getting Jahmyr Gibbs involved at all during this. It's possible that they keep Montgomery up since it's pretty tough defense, and he's kind of been on a pretty stellar run recently. So I think it's going to be I think it's going to be the Montgomery show, and I think that they're going to be all right over the next over this game. Not much more to say other than that. I think the Lions take a win. Leading us on to Cardinals and Rams. We'll be starting 4:25 this week. I think that this would be a nice challenge for the Cardinals again, just to prove whether or not they're legitimate. Josh Dobbs had some questionable decisions against the Bengals this week. I mean, I'm sure he would have liked some of the throws back, especially that pick six uh, that he sent the Bengals away. This game isn't going to be easy for them. Rams have a solid defense, and like I said, it's really the same with the Eagles. I think they're going to find a way to punish them on the ground with Kyren Williams. Notable to take in consideration is Cooper Kupp's return. So I think that connection is just going to develop even more, and it's not going to get any easier for the Cardinals. I think, in fact, this may be even a worse matchup than the Bengals situation, just with the fact that they can run it a little bit better. Joe Mixon hasn't necessarily looked as great as Kyren, but given it's kind of a smaller sample size, give me the Rams in this one. Not by much, like it may be two scores, but with some of the margins that we've seen pretty recently, that's not even that bad of a beat.
Yeah, I think Cooper Kupp is back. I think
Yeah,
he
he's
came
back with a
back.
capital B.
Yeah, that Stafford the Cup connection didn't really miss a beat, and they still got Puka. I think this Rams offense will be too much for the Cardinals. Their offense won't be able to keep up scoring wise. So I just think Rams win this one. I don't think it'll be like I agree. I don't think it'll be like this like 30-point blowout. Be like two or like 14, 17 point game at the end of it. When we say the end of it, Josh Dobbs has impressed me on how well he's playing. I didn't think he'd play this well, but yeah, I think. Don't forget the Rams have Sean McVay, and he is a play calling genius. So
One thing to that I could note just before we keep going at the last three, I think that Josh Dobbs is actually doing the Cardinals a favor. I mean, he has them at 1-4. If you can find a way to win this game against the Rams, like he can really make this a situation where, like, if Kyler does come back towards the end or like the mid towards end part of this season, like it could be something worth coming back to. Like even if he gets a couple more wins under his belt, like and keeps them like close to 500, like that's nice to have. And it's not like this team gets like that much better. Well, it's not. Well, the team does get that much better with Kyler back, but it's that. I mean, that's just one guy. That's one guy. Um, Obviously, the offensive side of the ball is going to get a little bit better. But I mean, if you can keep it competitive, then the Cardinals may have some semblance of a team going forward.
yeah, and then moving on to Eagles Jets. Eagles, like we said before, are undefeated. Jets, I mean, they they did beat the Broncos, but it's the Broncos. We are not really sure what this. Zach Wilson, he had an alright game. I don't think he'll do much better against the Eagles. I think Eagles win this game. They'll just overwhelm the Jets, really. Especially, I mean, even if they, if it's like 4th and 2, what they're doing. I mean, this,
The brotherly shove.
yeah, or the tush push, either one. But I mean, yeah, I think the Eagles win this. Kind of like what we saying with the Rams Cardinals. I think it'll be like 14 to 17 points almost.
Yeah, I actually think that they could find a way to keep it closer. I don't think that like this defense is going to be. They're not bottom of the barrel by any means. I mean, quite frankly, they're pretty decent. But I think Zach Wilson, like he can find a way to ride off of the Chiefs win. Um, just find a way to keep it rolling, just like a little bit. I mean, hopefully that wasn't a shot in the pan for the Jets franchise, but like let's hope that they can establish some sort of rhythm to keep this team competitive. I think the interesting or the thing that really is going to keep it close though is the cornerback room for the Jets. I think that they're going to find a way to stuff up AJ Brown and Devontae. Um, they're pretty this is my cat getting into the camera. They're pretty solid additions to the offense, like especially with AJ Brown. But like I think that the corners just haven't beat this particular week. And not that they're not going to put up any points or anything like that. I think they're still going to find a way to make it work. Um, but it's a difficult fact to consider on the Eagles, especially when you've struggled against some of the easier teams. I think it'll be kind of a brawl out, but the Eagles will come out on top by like give me like 10 points. All right, coming up towards the end here, we have a fairly interesting game in that of the Giants Bills, or at least it would have been had the Giants not been just whopped or walloped by the Dolphins most recently. And they are currently down like 17 billion starters. In that of Daniel Jones with, I believe, a neck injury. A couple of their wide receivers are down as well. And then apparently Saquon Barkley is still struggling after that high ankle sprain to come back. It's just not looking good for the Giants. It's not looking good for Brian Dable. Not that I think that we could necessarily put all of this on him. I just think that the Bills are a more complete team. I think really any team is more of a complete team than the Giants as they currently stand. Um, but I think I mean, Josh Allen, he did look really good during the Jags last weekend, which was, I mean, a pretty dominant defensive showing. Um, I just think the Bills have them beat, especially since they're at home. That's something to consider. Like, I mean, traveling with these many injuries, it's not fun. And I think the Bills just have them beat in basically every aspect of the game.
Yeah, the fact that the Giants offense has already looked horrible enough. They got like 2 linemen out. Waller, Wardell or Washington, Barkley and Jones isn't looking likely. It's just not an ideal situation for New York right now. And the Bills, I think they kind of want to bounce back after the game in London. And I mean, the Bills game was so weird because like they've been so like doing so well offensively, and then they like kind of stunk the bed. Like, and it's just really weird to see. I don't know what really happened. It may have just been a London, like they were dealing with going overseas and everything. I think they'll bounce back against the Giants, and I think they'll kill them, especially with all these starters out. I mean, the Giants won't have any weapons. It'll be kind of look like a week 17 game or week 18 game out there.
I think this is also a game where Von Miller will be able to make his return more pronounced. I mean, the Jags, it's not that he wasn't. It's not that he like wasn't there or anything like that. But I mean, what was it? 11 sacks against 11
Seahawks,
sacks against the Seahawks.
yeah,
Ridiculous. If he can find any way to get even close to as productive as they were, as the Seahawks defense was, that's gonna be dangerous.
yeah. Then moving on to Monday Night Football, Cowboys Chargers. Cowboys coming off. They really struggled in San Fran, which I thought they would be able to hold their own, but the San Francisco ended up being too much. Chargers have had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. I know they don't have the greatest head coach, and I'm probably gonna regret doing this, but I got the Chargers winning. I mean, this offense has just been so inconsistent. This Cowboys won, and I mean the Chargers. We've addressed their situations enough with their head coach and their inability to win close games. And I've come out saying that they're the Nebraska of the NFL, but I'm putting faith in the Nebraska of the NFL and giving the Chargers the win this week.
Yeah, I think that you may be forgetting everything you've said about them because I think that the Cowboys are going to win this game. Um, with really your only star receiver being Keenan Allen, with Mike Williams being out, that's a concern for the Chargers
Yeah,
in and of
Eckler is
itself.
back though, so
That is a big addition. But the ineptitude of Brandon Staley against the Cowboys defense, like that's cooking with fire. You're I would not want to be on the Charger side of the ball just with those two factors in and of itself. Justin Jefferson, he's one of my favorite quarterbacks, and he's certainly better than Dak, but I don't think that he'll be able to overcome just some of the play calling decisions by Staley. The way that I think the I think Dallas, even though their offense has been inconsistent and Dak has kind of proven some of the haters right in his interceptions. Like I think that like the Cowboys are going to find a way to beat this out, and I think you're going to regret betting on Nebraska again.
yeah. I'm
But
already
who knows?
wanting
I
to
could be
change my
wrong.
mind, but
This could be a new leaf.
I'm just
This could
gonna
be a new
stick
leaf.
with the Chargers.
Yeah,
This
go with your
game
gut.
could go so many ways. It's just you
It
don't
could.
really know.
It really could. All right. Well, that's all for us. Thank you guys for staying um and just listening to us and going through this week for us together. Let us know if you had any fantasy wins that you're proud of, if your team overproduced and if we wrote them off, but they wrote back and they came back and got the W. Let us know if you're excited about this week. Thank you guys for listening again. Hope you have a great week. Peace out.